in general, people put too much stock into what other people say about them.
Mm.
And a lot of times what people would say about you might be their narrative, not necessarily true. And the important thing is never give your self-esteem in anybody else's hands. Never let anybody determine, because you know what? They might not either see things clearly or they're not a judge on your worth. No one is ever a judge on your worth. But so many people grow up with people who are very well meaning, but judgmental. And that's just kind of common because we think we know better. But
Good
when
one.
you
That's a big
use
one.
someone as an external reference,
Mm.
I'm worthy because they love me. You're in for a lot of trouble. And there's a song that I grew up with. It was a song by Blood, Sweat, and Tears called You Make Me So Very Happy. And when I was a teenager, I thought, "Oh, what a romantic, nice song." You know what? That's a very codependent song. Codependency means that you are entwined with someone and you look for validation and self-worth in someone else.
Mm.
Really bad thing.
Mm.
So I realized as I went through school and became more knowledgeable about things that if you can make me happy, you can make me miserable. You can make me anything. So you never want anybody to make you feel anything. But we have this romanticized version that we the right person and they make our lives complete. Nobody can make you complete except yourself. And we often look for someone else to make us feel whole.
Welcome to Your Wordless podcast, the space where we redefine success, self-worth, and transformation. I am Nick Nieras, the soul-centered architect of transformation, helping you unlock your highest potential and build a legacy beyond limits. Now, whether it is self-mastery, career breakthroughs, or wealth creation, this is where change begins. Now let's dive in. Are you stuck in a job that you don't love, feeling like you're meant for more? It is not in your head, it is in your soul. I am Nick Nieras, and I help high achievers like you break free from burnout, rewire self-doubt, and build a life aligned with purpose through coaching, hypnotherapy, and soul activation. Because let's face it, real wealth isn't just about money. It is about a aligned and happy heart, mind, and soul. Now, remember, you are worthy and you are enough. Let's transform your life together. Visit www.thenicknierasholisticlifestyle.com to begin.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
All right. So, Judith, I'd like to take my guests and my listeners a trip down memory lane. First, what was it like growing up as a Judith Belmont?
What was it like growing up? I was very, very shy. I'm not anymore. I made up for lost time, but I was very, very shy, very sensitive. My family wasn't the healthiest family around. So I was very sensitive to things. And it was not easy growing up, but it made me very insightful, very sensitive. It made me choose this field. And it's been really great.
There were some ear prick-up moments there. You were shy, and therefore you made it your mission to actually be in this field and then help people with their issues.
Right. Part of it is I wanted to help myself too. I was always interested in why people act the way they do. I didn't quite understand why people that I was around acted the way they did. And I I found it like a natural fit. I never thought of actually doing anything else than being a therapist.
Ooh. Ooh, okay. I mean, I started off my early days of my career. That was like 15 years ago. I started off at 19. Now I'm in my mid 30s. So I wanted the safe route, which is becoming an accountant, because everybody needs accountant. Every industry needs an accountant. But then come 30 years old, everything came crumbling down for me, and I switched basically major to mental health as well. So I got myself certified in hypnotherapy, and I started talking to people simply because I thought I was going insane, and I wanted to see if there are other people, experiencing the same difficulties that I was in, and just trying to figure out or make sense if is it only me, like the woe is me, right? I didn't want to dwell into that. And so that's when I started talking and I find it very therapeutic. So I guess I want to tie this to my next question, Judith. Why do you think that therapy is necessary?
I think it's not necessary for everybody, but it
Mm-hmm.
certainly helps a lot. And I think self-help books are also very helpful. Sometimes people need the combination to help them grow, sometimes one or another. But therapy helps people look at things from a different way because a lot of times we come, like my clients would come to therapy looking at things in one way and they weren't necessarily thinking very rationally. And I would give them tools and tips to help them be able to get more empowered so that they free themselves from self-limiting beliefs.
Ooh, my kind of topic. What are the common self-limiting beliefs that you encounter when
Well,
you're working with your clients?
well, a lot of people talk to themselves like they would never talk to anybody else. So they are hard on themselves. I shouldn't have done that. That was so stupid. You never make anything of yourself, but you wouldn't talk to anybody else like that. So people come often to therapy and or just in need of help to maybe be more self-compassionate, well, self-forgiving. A lot of times people carry regret around like a backpack, have so many things that they did wrong or missteps or why didn't I know that then, what I know now. Um, a lot of people don't think they're as worthy as they are. But I have a great exercise that I would show my clients. I would show them let's say a $20 bill in American money. $20, I would crush it. I would step on it. And I would have them do it too, crease it, unfold it. I said, how much is it worth now? And they said $20. And I said, yes. So no matter how stepped on you feel, how creased you are, how folded you are, you still have the same worth because we're just as worthy as the day we were born. But somehow along the way, we get messages that we're not good enough and that we should be different. They might be from parents, they might be from kids at school, they might be from peers, they might be from just society and social media that you're supposed to be beautiful and smart and, have it all. So, regardless of where you got it from, and a lot of times it's a combination, realizing that you are worthy and you don't have to be a certain way to be, quote, good enough. I can't believe how many people who seem to have it all outwardly would think I'm not good enough. And if I'm rejected by this person, I'm a bad person. They would have an external reference that they didn't feel that internal core. So I like that analogy of that dollar bill that we're still the same worth because we don't look in a nursery and say, this one has more here, they're better. We don't do that. They're all beautiful. All these little children are innocent and beautiful. Well, you know what? Your soul never changes. It's always there. And so I find a lot of people not realizing that. And
Mm,
what they need to do on the journey is learn self-compassion, learn forgiveness, and all those creases become basically a way that they get deeper instead of weaker.
you are speaking my language, Judith.
Good.
What does it mean? What does it look like being self-compassionate? Because the reason how I got into this whole journey of journeying within was because of my divorce back in 2019. And growing up, I used to tie my self-worth to the achievements, my schooling days, my university days. And then I brought that with me when I was working and I was climbing up the corporate ladder. And so I thought that, respect, you earn respect through the accolades that you have, your pay, now so I thought to myself, working and studying, I was acing those two departments in my life. And then relationship was something that I was a planner since I was a kid, now not so much. And I said, okay, let me see if I can settle down before 30. So I did. I met my then partner, but then after 2 years, everything we decided to go on a separate ways. And I kind of tied that to my self-worth, because if somebody couldn't love me, the person that I devoted my entire attention, effort to, and he couldn't appreciate that, therefore I'm worthless. And that's actually the narrative that I was telling myself every day since I think after that divorce for about 2 years, until I said, okay, I'm going insane. Let me see if I can resonate with other people around the world. That's why I started my podcast. And that basically broke me, but it, it sort of like broke my ego in a sense, so that my new self will emerge. Now, I love when you said about limiting beliefs. Have that limiting, because beliefs are formed between the ages of 0 to 7 or to 8, right? You don't know anything then. And so if a kid that likes singing, but then been told that they're actually not good, that kid is going to think that they're not good enough. And even though their voice could be, they could sound like an angel, right? So the point that I'm trying to make here, why do people, despite knowing all of this, still bring themselves down by talking bad about that? Or just there's this looping negative thoughts about themselves?
Well, in general, people put too much stock into what other people say about them.
Mm.
And a lot of times what people would say about you might be their narrative, not necessarily true. And the important thing is never give your self-esteem in anybody else's hands. Never let anybody determine, because you know what? They might not either see things clearly, or they're not a judge on your worth. No one is ever a judge on your worth. But so many people grow up with people who are very well meaning, but judgmental. And that's just kind of common because we think we know better. But
It's a good
when
one.
you
That's a big
use
one.
someone as an external reference,
Mm.
I'm worthy because they love me. Oh my, you're in for a lot of trouble. And there's a song that I grew up with. It was a song by Blood, Sweat, and Tears called You Make Me So Very Happy. And when I was a teenager, I thought, oh, what a romantic, nice song. You know what? That's a very codependent song. Codependency means that you are entwined with someone and you look for validation and self-worth in someone else.
Mm.
Really bad thing.
Mm.
So I realized as I went through school and became more knowledgeable about things, that if you can make me happy, you can make me miserable. You can make me anything. So you never want anybody to make you feel anything. But we have this romanticized version that
Oof.
we the right person and they make our lives complete. Nobody can make you complete except yourself. And we often look for someone else to make us feel whole. Now, that doesn't mean relationships aren't good. It's not good to have a partner, but you want two whole people. You don't want a half a half a person clinging on to each other to make a whole person. And we say things all the time, just as a matter of speech, that are irrational. And that's why cognitive behavior therapy, CBT, cognitive means mind, behavior is behavior. Looking at your thoughts that create your feelings and your behaviors are so important. Identifying what irrational thoughts are. So, for example, she makes me so mad. What's wrong with that? That's irrational because nobody can change the neurons in your brain. I am mad when she says that. Well,
Right.
Howard, just as a matter of speech, he stresses me out. That's impossible. So, like, if I was doing a live presentation, I would say, how many people here say that traffic stresses them out? Everybody would raise their hand. I said, guess what? The answer is 0. Traffic doesn't have that ability to change your head. You have to change your head. Traffic might be stressful for you, but that doesn't mean it stresses you out. You're allowing it. So
Yes.
we don't often realize that we have control. And a lot of times we look for others for validation, but what do they know?
Hi, I'm Nick Nieras, your host of the Your Wordless podcast. Now, if these real raw stories hit home, don't wait. Please follow, like, and subscribe my Spotify and YouTube. For bite-sized inspirational reels, follow me on Instagram, TikTok, and LinkedIn. Don't wait. Your transformation starts today. Thank you, and bye for now.
I had this thought to Judith just I think yesterday because I was talking to somebody, and then I love the fact when you pointed that romanticizing aspect when you're especially in romantic relationship. It could be platonic as well. Romantic relationship, especially you're in that space, you like talking to them. It's like you have commonalities between the two of you. She likes singing, you like singing, yada yada, go to cinemas, whatever. And then when he does something or she does something that stresses you out, and that sends like a trigger, and then that is like a sensory response in your body and saying, why am I'm so mad, why are they making me mad, why am I mad? And oftentimes, at least in my example, I thought to myself, I tried to rationalize, like, is it because he did something that I told him not to do? Or is it because I actually liked him and that's why whatever that he did actually made me really upset? Or is it because he should have done something first before actually doing that? So, and I came to the conclusion that, is it emotional? It's definitely emotional, yeah. But what is the root cause? The root cause was I felt kind of betrayed. So for example, I told him to get on my podcast and then talk about his work. And so he got on another podcast. Now I was so mad because at least you should have told me that you're going to get on podcast. I do podcasts for a living. And I was mad, but then I rationalized that with myself before, escalating things to me being angry and pointing fingers at him and saying why this and that. And actually, had I gone to the route of attacking him, it would have disintegrated the friendship. So when I'm in that position, how many people is actually capable to think that rational, like be objective?
Well, I think that when you have tools, and that's the subject of a lot of my books, is having tools to know how to think more rationally. It's one thing to say, oh, you shouldn't think that way. That's irrational. How do you think? So you need to practice it. It's like if you want to get physically fit, you exercise, you have to work at it. You take walks or you go on a treadmill or something. People think for their mind, it should just come intuitively, but it doesn't. Sometimes you really need to learn skills. And I'll give you an example. There's something called cognitive distortions, and cognitive distortions are unhealthy thinking habits. And when you were saying a lot of these things like he should have done that and whatever, shoulding is a cognitive distortion. It's an unhealthy thinking habit because you are judging what other people should do. Now, that doesn't mean, yeah, they shouldn't kill me and they shouldn't, have a gun and fire, we're not talking about criminal behavior. We're talking about interpersonal behavior that's not abusive or criminal. When you should on yourself or should on others, you're in big trouble. And so you rephrase it. So that would be a cognitive distortion, shoulding. And so maybe you write down your thought. He shouldn't have done that. I wish he didn't do that. What's the
Mm,
difference? One is you give him power and the other one you give yourself power. And
that's
then
right.
you're not being so judgmental because you have not the ability to direct him. You can only change yourself. Another cognitive distortion is all or nothing thinking. I'm a failure. I never get this right. I keep on screwing up. You know, just over catastrophize. It's terrible. I can't stand it. Well, actually, that's not true. People are able to stand what they don't like. They usually don't melt into the ground. They can stand it. They don't like it. So when you identify the kind of distortions, like thinking like a magnifying glass, ooh, that's a distortion, terrible, awfulizing. She never listens to me. Well, that's actually all or nothing thinking. A lot of times I don't think she's listening to me. What does that do? It makes your problems temporary instead of permanent. It's not
Mm.
a permanent thing that this is always going to be that way. Up until now, I have felt this way often. And then when things are temporary, you have power again. You're not a, so no, I think a lot of people do think irrationally because they might have learned it or they might, once you feed yourself negative thoughts, it's not hard to go down the rabbit hole of negative thinking. And it's important to identify those distortions. All or nothing thinking. I'm giving an example. Labeling. I'm a failure. I failed, therefore I'm a failure. People are dimensional. I'm a loser. It's like silly thinking, but people really think that of themselves or other people. It's
Yes.
important not to label other people either. So labeling, fortune telling. I'll never get over this. I have a friend now going through a divorce. I'll never find someone else. I'll never get over this. How do you know?
Exactly. How
That's
do
a
you
very
know?
limiting belief. Be more flexible. It's like if you fold your arms like this.
Mhm.
Can you do that for a second, even with your microphone?
Yes.
Okay. Which arm is on top? I guess your
My
right.
right. Yeah.
Okay. Try it the other way. It's hard, right? How
Yes.
does it feel?
Yes. Different.
Feels
Awkward.
strange.
Yeah.
So when I'm in a live presentation, it's usually half and half of the people. Doesn't matter if you're left or right-handed. A lot of people are comfortable like this. A lot of people are comfortable like that. It shows the importance of shifting your perspective just a little bit so that you get unstuck from unhealthy thought habits.
I love that. I think that's powerful. And so, what is in your book? Tell us about your book, Judith.
Okay. Well, I have it right here, 110 CBT tips and tools. And basically it's 100 standalone tips
Mm-hmm.
that are either worksheets or handouts or visualizations. They're hands-on things like describing here, identifying the cognitive distortions, how to have a uh, positive thinking diary, a stress management diary, and have, the different columns and how to dispute your unhealthy thoughts. It's one thing to say, she, makes me so mad. That's irrational, right? Then you rephrase it. So I have ways of rephrasing it, identifying distortions, and then other things like that. And other tips so that you can be grounded and healthy.
Mm,
It's all about having a growth mindset instead of a fixed mindset. We're all beautiful, we're all evolving, and we all deserve our best life, no
wow.
matter what has happened.
What does it mean taking back your power? You mentioned that earlier.
Taking back your power is not thinking that other people should be a certain way or should have done certain things. Forgive them for not being able to give you what they didn't have to give and becoming self-directed instead of worrying so much about what other people think about you. Because we have often an external reference that what other people think is often more important than what I think. A lot of my clients would say, "Oh, I'm so afraid of him not liking me or speaking up and maybe I'll say something stupid in a meeting." And really the most important thing is that they would feel comfortable with themselves and forgiving if they made a mistake or if they said something that they wish they would have said differently. But a lot of times people are paralyzed and they couldn't speak up in a meeting because they're so afraid of what other people think. They have no power. So taking back your power is focusing on accepting your mistakes, accepting setbacks. Let's say you said something you regret. You learn from it and you move on. A lot of people I'll never forget, there's a woman in my office that said, she was in her mid-30s. She said, I had this many failures and I can't afford one more. And you know what? She could only think of two. She dropped out of college, and I actually forget the other one. It wasn't very life-shattering.
Mm.
But she grew up in a very judgmental family, and she learned to judge herself by how things had turned out in her life rather than believing in herself that no matter what, she's worthy as a person. She didn't feel like she was worthy. And so a lot of people give themselves a tightrope that I can't fail because I already screwed up. And so they're so afraid of making one more mistake. And that's a very tedious way to live.
Yeah. It's like you're always having to watch your back all the time. Like, how do you even breathe, right?
Yep.
So what? Yeah. So did she overcome that? I'm curious.
Yeah. Yes, she did. She went back to school in her late 30s. And, yes, people can change, but they often need support and they often need the tools. If you tell someone, just think more positively,
How?
doesn't do
Like
anything.
it's like
What
yeah,
do you do? But okay, let's look at this sheet over here.
yeah.
Let's write what often I would say, a client would come to my office. They said, oh, I was feeling really anxious this week. Said, what thoughts were going through your mind? And I would write them down. And then we would look at each thought and we would say, is that fact or fiction? Is it true or is it a narrative you tell yourself? And then most of the things that caused a lot of anxiety. Now there's some good things of anxiety. I tend to drive on the slower side because I don't want to get in an accident. So I'm a little bit anxious when I drive, like in new places, but that makes me more careful. A little bit is okay, but a lot of people have a lot of anxiety and it can be debilitating.
Yes, yes, yes.
She learned skills because a lot of times people don't know how, and they keep on expecting other people to give them things they don't have to give. And then they decide, I'm not worthy because this person doesn't think I'm worthy. It's a very scary place to be in when you judge your worth by someone else's parameters.
Yes.
Very, very scary. I liken it to you can't get milk at a hardware store. Let's say you go to a furniture store or a hardware store, you don't expect to buy milk, right? At least in this country, you don't. Anyway, I don't know.
No, I
This
don't
country.
think there's a shop in Malaysia that sells hardware and then have milk on the side.
Oh, okay. But
In
in general,
general, yeah.
let's say a furniture store. Okay,
Yes.
furniture, okay, a furniture store, but it's almost like expecting the furniture store to give you milk, expecting people to give you something that they don't actually have to give will set you up for a lot of disappointment. And just by empowering yourself and realizing, you know what? I don't need to be validated by anyone. I'll never forget, I did this workshop once and it was for women. And I said, on a card, write down what makes you feel good about yourself. I collected the cards and guess what? Almost everyone had an external reference.
What are
It
the references?
husband compliments me. When people say that they like something about me, when I get compliments, when I do that, it all had to do with what other people thought. Very few people said things that were self-empowering. And I thought that was very interesting and
Yeah.
also kind of sad that their happiness relied on other people pumping them up and making them feel worthy. No one can make you feel anything.
I love that. I take that. At least for me, inner peace is my number one priority right now. Like, no matter what you tell me, I've learned the lessons the hard way. Because I've been, yeah, there some things did happen to me in my workplace where my self-confidence really it basically shattered, right? And so I vowed to myself, never again will I place my self-worth onto what other people think of me. Just because they are not able or they're being pressured by somebody's like the higher management doesn't mean that they can push it onto us. And it was my fault because I like to people please before. Right now, I still battle with that sometimes because we are good people and I think we want to give our best to the people around us. But sometimes they take advantage, right?
Well,
And so,
you know what? It could be very stressful in a work situation because, like, if you're not in depending on what level you're at, you're kind of at the mercy if you have, let's say, an irrational boss or
yes.
people who are toxic you're working with. And all you can do is develop your own sense of self and core self worth. And if they, stand up for yourself. One of the things that I have in the book, and I am a very big proponent of, is using I statements. I don't feel comfortable when you talk to me that way. Because in your mind, you might be thinking, what a nerve he's saying that to me. But then you're going to give him the power. But you think in I statements. I'm not comfortable with the way that he is talking to me. I don't deserve this. Rather than he should be doing that because one of them is giving him power. The other one is realizing that you are only worthy of respect. So
Mm,
assertive communication is really important.
mm.
I work for a training company called training.com. Once once a month, I do dealing with toxic employees in the workplace. And that is one of my points is learning how to be assertive. And no matter how difficult someone is, as long as you can stand up for yourself, I don't feel comfortable, ask for what you want without focusing on what you're doing.
Basically, tying it back to standing in your own power, d- not giving your power to other people and making it from your perspective and then outward. I love that.
Absolutely.
All right, Judith, okay, I know we talk about tools and tips just before that, but if we could round up maybe top three simplest, easiest way for people listening to us right now that they can implement in their daily life, be it when they're about to start an argument with their partner or in a workplace situation or when they're dealing with their, suppliers in their business.
Well, one of the things is to identify what the thoughts are, which we already talked about, writing your thoughts and saying, okay, is this rational or irrational?
Mm-hmm.
Identifying if there's unhealthy ways of thinking. It often helps to have what's called affirmations. Affirmations are positive self statements that you really believe. You can't just write it or say it and then really not believe it. But they're things that maybe is on a note card or on your computer or something that little notes that will help ground you and remind you of your worth. Sometimes even have like a little polished stone in your purse or your pocket, and that could help ground you. Just remembering, yes, I am worthy, especially in situations. It's like little kids have stuffed animals, to
Mm-hmm.
give yourself some security with positive affirmations. Another thing is you could have coping cards. When when I am in a meeting and I'm afraid of speaking up, these are some healthy thoughts to have. And then because when people are emotionally aroused and they get anxious and they get upset or they get depressed, they often don't think clearly. So, right when you're feeling better, you write some positive self statements or suggestions of what to do when you are feeling really upset, and it can help ground you. That would be a few ideas. Another is the practice of what's called cognitive diffusion. Diffuse is you make objective something that's kind of fused in your head.
I love that.
Let's
Yes.
say you say, I'm a loser. Let's say you say that. You look at your thoughts instead of from your thoughts. And so imagine I'm a loser is written on a cloud or on a leaf on a stream,
Mm-hmm.
or if it's on a blackboard and you're looking at the thought. There I go again, having that thought. So you're defusing it from your head so it's not automatic anymore. Those automatic negative thoughts Like, she didn't like me. I'm not very popular. Nobody likes me. I'm not appealing. When someone does that, they are not objective. They're
Mm,
polarizing everything. So take that thought and look at it and say, does that really make any sense?
yeah.
Because a lot of the negative things we tell ourselves don't make any sense. I call it pig Latin. It's like you learned a language of pig Latin and now you need to learn a healthier language.
Mm,
You don't know maybe you learned pig Latin when you were growing up, but this is never about blaming because people can't give you what they don't have to give.
yes.
So all you need to do is take back that power and realize just because I have these creases from my past doesn't mean I can't be a full, whole, beautiful person. And these creases make me deeper instead of weaker.
Mm,
Just like in what you're describing in your story, that has prompted you to do something very beautiful with your life. So that is a journey that you're on that you were able to make from the pain healing in a very beautiful way that touches the lives of so many others.
thank you. Um, Judith, like I wanted to extend on the statement that you made, looking at that negative statement, I am a loser, she doesn't like me, therefore I'm not popular. But then taking one more step, thinking that, are you really not popular? Because I actually have a group of people that actually likes me. They like me and they adore me. So her or his perception of me of not being popular based on this event that happened today does not really equate to my whole perception of myself that I am not popular. It's just you thought of me that way. I'm so sorry. You're missing out. You're missing out on this all this sass and this jazz.
It's interesting. I agree with you because we sometimes sum up, and that's what one of the kind of distortions that I talked about was overgeneralizing or
Yes,
overcatastrophizing. They don't like me. Nobody likes me. You know,
exactly.
just kind of, I'm not popular. But that brings me to the point of differentiating a thought from a feeling. A lot of times people would say to me, I feel like people don't like me. And I say, is that a feeling or a thought? I think people don't like me and I feel badly about it. Why does it matter? It's not a matter of semantics. You can't change your feelings, but you can change your thoughts. And
Mm,
that's self-empowering. So a lot of times, like, someone said to me a long time ago, but it sort of stuck out to me, I feel like you're criticizing me.
mm,
And I'm thinking, yeah, he wasn't thinking very rationally because he thought I criticized him and he was feeling defensive. Of course, what was happening is that a very good friend of mine was the head of the organization and he was criticizing my very good friend. He said, I feel like you're criticizing me. Well, I was just defending my friend, whatever it was. So you can see how crazy the whole situation got. But when he
yes.
said, I feel like you're criticizing me, I'm thinking, okay, it shows how irrational, because he doesn't know the difference between a thought and a feeling. You
Mm,
can say to yourself, don't feel sad.
yes.
I can do that. But I can stop thinking. I can choose to stop thinking in ways that undermine my health and wellness.
Yes. And it's so funny, right, Judith? We overgeneralize the bad things, but when something good happens, we wait for the other shoe to drop. Like, oh my
Yeah,
God,
you're
what?
right. I know. I know. Funny thing about people. You are absolutely right.
It's like, oh, you get like the thing that you prayed for, you got it, and then said, oh my God, what if this gets taken away from me? Right? We
That
magnify that.
actually happened to a friend of mine.
Mm-hmm.
She had a terrible divorce. Her husband ended up dying in an accident, her ex.
Oh, I'm so
Um,
sorry.
and yeah, terrible stuff. She finally found she had two young children. She finally found the love of her life. And about a week after the wedding, she had panic attacks. That's when she started going to therapy. And I was working at a mental health center at the time. And she also worked there. And we would talk about it. And I said, isn't it interesting that now that your life finally came together after all this stuff, that's when you're having, and that's exactly what she worked out with her therapist. She went into therapy and she worked out that she was so afraid the other shoe was going to drop. She just didn't figured it wasn't going to last.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, bless her. Okay, Judith, we are going to the next question. So, what are you working on currently? What's exciting?
On trying to get my book out and my books out. I've written 11 books and 2 therapeutic card decks. And instead of writing anymore, I'm going to try to really get this out because my last book in particular is the culmination of everything that I have learned and all these great tips. And it turned out I'll show you how thick it is. I didn't realize when I was writing it how thick it was. And it's all full of like worksheets and handouts and oh my God. So I'm really focused on getting this out.
Okay, and then so what is next then after this is out? What is next for you? What have you got envisioned for yourself?
I want to, as I'm older, I am very appreciative of life and health, and I want to keep on growing and connecting with people and living my best life. I have nothing outside of that.
Wow, I love that. Whew.
It's
Okay,
not about what I need to accomplish more or anything. Yeah. I
you're
want,
content. You're content. You're happy. You're there.
yeah, I mean, not every single second of the day, but yes, I would say
Of course.
I am a very grateful person because people who are grateful are generally happier because I'm not looking as much as I used to at what's missing in my life. I look at what I have and I look at the beauty around me and I'm like so lucky to be alive. And I don't, I want, at my age, I have a lot of people who have health issues, and some people are having very serious or they have passed away, and very appreciative of life. And I wish didn't take it as much for granted when I was younger. So I'm making up for lost time.
Thank you for that reminder. Okay, we're going to pivot to a self worth question. This is a question that I have for you. Existential crises often lead us to question the meaning and purpose of our lives. How have you navigated these challenging moments and what insights have you gained?
Well, I've taken nothing major, criminal, or anything, but when I look back at the decisions that I've made and the choices and experiences, I definitely wouldn't have made them again. A lot of mistakes, a lot of wrong turns, but it brought me to the right place. And that's basically what I have to say about that.
You are where you're meant to be.
I realized I evolved in a way that is the best me that I can be at this point in time. So it's not like I would want to make some of these same choices again, but sometimes people keep on focusing on the past because they still hope it's going to get better, but it never gets better.
Yes.
And, we're reworking the past and regurgitating is like a cow chewing its cud. It just keeps on just going back and you're not going to grow. So I look back at my past with insight, but my mission is to be more mindful today and appreciative of the gift of life.
What is your heart's greatest wish?
I would say my greatest wish is that people would be kinder to each other. And a lot of people would rather be right than be kind. So, for instance, a definition of an argument is proving that you're right. Being right is definitely overrated. Being kind is not overrated. Now, being kind doesn't mean being someone people step on, stand up for yourself. But a lot of times people are not kind to each other, particularly in my country now. There's a lot of negativity and a lot of very unkindness from the top. And it's surprising to me how it's caught on, this negativity, but I don't want any part of that. And I'm working on my own corner of the world where I can try to be as kind as I can.
And you're impacting one
And
person
others.
at a time by coming onto the show. So thank you.
Exactly. That's an example.
So, Judith, if you could create a quote right now for you to leave to the audience listening and the world as your legacy, what would it be?
You're beautiful the way you are, and keep on discovering your beauty because we're all unique. And instead of trying to be perfect, be authentic. Being the authentic you is the greatest gift that you can give to the world and yourself.
Yay! Worthy, authentic, and abundant. That is the name of my framework. I love that. Thank you for tying that up with that
Thank
one.
you.
Okay, Judith, how can people reach out to you then?
Well, I have a website, Belmont Wellness, and I have a lot of free resources, actually. I have handouts, worksheets, self-help quizzes, visualizations that you can see. I'll have podcast excerpts of this podcast on there, as well as others. Have my books, of course. So Belmont Wellness would be a good place, but also my author page on Amazon.
So, Judith, before we wrap up the interview, any last message for our listeners?
I'm inspired by you and your authenticity, and I think you're a great role model for your listeners because you are definitely being true to yourself, and whatever you have gone through, you have made some real beauty out of it.
Thank you. I felt that. What a great way to wrap this up for my evening. Thank you for that, Judith. So that is a wrap on today's inspiring episode with Judith Belmont. Thank you, Judith, for the work you do, for continuing to uplift the world around you,
Thank you.
and 1% at a time. For our
Thank you.
listeners, this has been Your Worthless. Read that again, the juxtaposition of your very soul. Now, if you've ever felt worthless, remember you are not alone. Your soul chose to be here to matter. And for that reason alone, you are worthy. A huge thank you to you again, Judith, and to all of you for listening.
Thank you very much.
Thank
I
you.
enjoy you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Until next time, I am Nick Nieras. Keep shining, keep growing, and always remember you are worthy and you are enough. See you in the next episode. Bye-bye now. And cut.
Love this episode? Now, transformation doesn't end here. Head on to @holistic.lifestyle_with_Nick. That is on my Instagram. Or head on to my website, www.holisticlifestyle.com for more info on my coaching framework, which is the Worthy, Authentic, and Abundant Framework, digital guides, and my upcoming events such as retreats and master classes and workshops. Now, I also do intuitive readings where we get to check on your soul path. And if you're also wanting to check on your energetic alignment, I have done that too. And I offer that kind of services. So, my question to you is, are you ready? Because I am. Let's create your next.
Good morning, Judith. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for saying yes to be interviewed today. My name is Nicolette. I am the creator for the podcast titled You're Worthless. Read that again, the juxtaposition of your very soul. Now, today we're going to talk about mental health and wellness, a topic that is very near and dear to my heart because I went through some traumatic experiences the last 5 years and healing for the past 6 years. So I cannot wait to get into this conversation.
Great. Well,
Awesome.
doing some good things with the trauma that you had, and you're making healing a universal experience for a lot of people. So thank you for doing that.
Thank you, Judith. Thank you. Now, I'd like to introduce you to all of our listeners today, and then we can get right into our conversation.
Sounds great.
Hello, everyone. We have Judith Belmont here with us. Judith has 4 decades of experience as a psychotherapist in private practice, mental health, and corporate trainer, as well as a wellness conference speaker. Now, she is the author of 11 mental health and self-help books and 2 therapeutic card decks. Now, Judith holds a master's in clinical psychology from Hahnemann Medical College and a bachelor of psychology from University of Pennsylvania. Well, welcome to the show, Judith.